It's up here. We got them all.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Definitely got a full house today. All right, we got an open seat up front here. Is that taken? Got an open seat here. Okay. Well, good morning, Tide Point. Welcome to the May Town Hall meeting. And for our members joining us from home, my name is Michael Friedel. I'm your Executive Director. And for any members, is this your first time joining a Town Hall? Any new members here? Okay, welcome. Got a couple new members with us today. So we do the Town Hall on a monthly basis. And generally, it is the fourth Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock in the morning right here in the ballroom. And then I also host what I call a Mingle with Mike, which is an open chat session, so to speak, where I'll provide some updates and then open up the floor for any comments from members. And that is the second Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock right here in the ballroom. So yes, we have a big crowd today, and we're going to be talking about hurricanes today. And I'm thinking that that's why most of you are here with us today. Maybe there's some other updates that you wanted to hear. Maybe there's some burning issues out there that you wanted to discuss. But on the agenda so far, we're going to be talking about hurricanes, and I'm going to provide an update about our plan for hurricanes and how that impacts you and what we need from you and what the community is going to provide. I'm going to provide a brief dining update for you all today, and then we're going to talk about some things that are happening in maintenance, which is pretty exciting. So I'm going to wrap up with that, and then we'll have a brief question and answer session. So and then I'm joined by Carrie Rodriguez. Carrie is joining me today because she is our local subject matter expert from the leadership team on hurricanes. She's been through quite a few here at the community and helped me to put this presentation together. She's been through a couple evacuations. She's been through a couple, shelter-in-place hurricanes that have taken place here at the community. So she's going to be able to provide some context to the conversation as we go along and be able to answer some questions. So let's jump right in. So I wanted to first start with what does our evacuation history look like? And as you can see on the screen, dating all the way back to 2016, that was the big one from what I hear, Hurricane Matthew, Category 2 storm, pretty intense winds, pretty impactful for the community. That was an evacuation, and then, geez, a year later, here you go again. And this is all before my time, so I'm sure that many of you remember this, 2017. Here you go again with Hurricane Irma. And then you had a shelter in place with Florence in 2018, 19, another evacuation with Dorian, and then most recently Ian in September of 2022, and that was a shelter in place as well. So I think there was a couple close calls last year. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to Tom before I came down, he was tied to the PB, and I saw some of the emails that he was sending to the team. One of them was just pray. It just said pray, which for Tom and for you all and some of the leaders in the community, right, you don't want to go through evacuations, even shelter in place. So you can certainly understand where it's coming from. So what are some of the lessons learned? So two really big ones. I'm sure there's more than this that we'll talk about today, but first and foremost, that we gotta have a plan, right? So we as a community need to have a plan, and then we're also encouraging you to have a plan because there's some decisions that you need to make as hurricanes are coming upon us. And another big lesson learned is leave at the right time. So it's all about timing, right? So some of that is based on what the governor says. So we depend on the governor for timing. But for us, we also need to be thinking really proactively, thinking about where are we going to go? Is it going to be with the community? Is it going to be with a family member? So we need to be thinking ahead and ensuring that we have enough time to get off the island. Hurricane season, right around the corner. As a matter of fact, you'll see this on one of the slides that's coming up today. NOAA announces their forecast for hurricanes. It might even already be out there, I don't know. I see some folks going through the phones already, but it might already be out there, but today is the announcement from NOAA. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But the season starts on June 1st and ends on the 30th of November. So, and from what I understand, really September, October, really where it winds up, the hurricane season winds up here. Not to say that we couldn't have an early season impact or late season impact. We've certainly seen them across the East Coast. But September, October seem to be the peak of it for Hilton Head Island. So just quick, at a glance, this is some information that I wanted to share with you. You may have seen this through some local news forecasts, but they are predicting that the 2024 season is going to be pretty intense. It's going to be one of the most active on record. So that's never a good thing to hear, right? So even more important that we're sitting here today, and talking about hurricanes. So ahead of the NOAA forecast, there's potentially 25 named storms, and 12 hurricanes are being forecast. So it's a pretty intense season. A lot of that is due to the warmer weather and the lower wind shear. So it's no secret that we're seeing rising sea levels, we're seeing warmer sea temperatures throughout the season, which is really leading to the intense hurricanes and the intense wet weather across the country. So here's some of the predictions, and I'm going to step back to the podium and talk to you from here for a minute. From Colorado State, in 2023, they forecasted 5 named storms, and they actually had 20 named storms. Forecasted 7 hurricanes, and actually had 7 hurricanes. 3 major forecasted, 3 actual. So a lot more storms, same amount of hurricanes and major hurricanes, but the intensity was definitely there in 2023. So in 2024, I should just share a little bit of this with you. An average season for hurricanes, based on past history, is 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes and 3 major, which is category 3 or above. Colorado State is predicting 23 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 5 category 3 or above. And then, of course, the NOAA forecast is coming out today, so we'll see where that lands. I think regardless of where the NOAA forecast is, it could be a little less in Colorado State, or it could be a little bit more. I think regardless, I mean, it could be a low forecast, and you could still get it, right? So either way, we just need to be really prepared. So that's coming today. So I'm anxious to see that. Okay. Let's talk about planning. So this is where Carrie has been really helpful. She is our key planner for hurricanes. So ahead of the season, Carrie and others are going out into the community, and we're putting contracts in place. One of the big contracts that we recently just put in place was to get a contract with buses, and we just signed off on a contract that we're able to get 4 motor coach buses in the event that a hurricane comes upon us where we need to evacuate. So we have an agreement with that company. They're secure. If we call, they'll be here, which is really good. There is cost associated with that because you do have to retain them, so to speak. But it's good to know that if we need them, they'll be here. If we did need to evacuate, we would have 6 Tide Point vehicles available to us, 1 moving truck. And if we evacuate, it would be to, we do consider multiple evacuation sites, to include multiple hotels, because we just don't know which direction the storm is going to go. So in the past, I believe there might have been a Ramada in Augusta. I believe this year we're looking at the Crown Plaza. I know there's a couple, I heard about the Ramada. I heard about that. Yes. I could probably have a whole presentation just on that. I'm sure you could probably come up and present on that. So yes, I heard that was an exciting stay, to say the least. So this year, if needed, hopefully not, the Crown Plaza is going to be the destination if we can go in that direction. And then we also take a look at our care center side, the frailest of the frail. We need to ensure that they're taken care of as well. So we do line up an agreement with an acute care hospital. In the past, it's been one in Augusta, but we're working on other options because that hospital's changed hands. It's a new owner. So we're hoping that they will we'll be able to get an agreement in place with them. If not, we're going to have to switch out different hospitals. I believe the last hurricane or evacuation, we were able to get at that hospital in Augusta one complete wing. Might have been like 50 or 60 beds. So this is just a map giving you an idea of where we may go, depending on the track of the storm. Augusta would be one of the most logical. We've gone there in the past, but that's up in the air depending on how it tracks. Or it could be Columbia. So we could go northwest, we could go north. And then if we have to go south or southwest, that's always an option as well. So the big question is, do we evacuate? And for us, it's a pretty simple answer. If the governor says evacuate, we evacuate. So I know that in the past, generally, the governor likes to be able to call it early if he can or she can. There's been times where the storm's taken some really crazy turns last minute. So Category 1 or tropical storms or Category 1s where we ended up sheltering in place because it happened so quickly. But when the governor says we evacuate and mandates it, then we have to go. So essentially for everybody that lives in this community, no matter where you are, we would need to pack our things and head on out. Ideally prepared beforehand, knowing that we might need to evacuate. I believe when I was reading some of the after action report from Matthew, there were some folks that were supposed to evacuate that didn't evacuate the island, but basically there was no support staff here at all. They were thinking that they were going to have three open firehouses staff, but right before the storm they decided to pull everybody off because of the risk for those emergency responders. So if you were here on the island and decided to shelter in place during Hurricane 2 and hide out in the closet or something, you had no support. No support at all. So this just reviews some of the information that we need for you all to help, if in the event of evacuation, make this go smoothly. So we're going to sort of weave through this in a couple different phases. Information needed from members. And then we'll talk a little bit about if you decide to evacuate by yourself, what does that mean? Or if you decide to stay with Tide Point and evacuate with the community, what does that mean? Because there's different scenarios that play out. But from you all, at a core, we should have emergency contacts information. We should have your evacuation agreement back that was handed out earlier in the month. I believe that came out May 1st. We have quite a few of them, but we still need more. And then in that agreement, you're identifying are you going to evacuate with the community or you're going to evacuate independently. And then also there was some spots on there for some medical information. So this is all key information for us, more so if you evacuate with us, so that we know what how we can support you. So if you decide to go and evacuate to your daughter's house, your son's house, or a family member's house, then these are some of the things that you want to ensure that you're taking along with you. Your medical information, you never know if you're going to need it. You never know how long you're going to be evacuated for. As a matter of fact, one of the communities in Florida, that storm that came up through Fort Myers, Naples, that community was evacuated for 120 days. Yeah, 3 months. That's a long time. So you want to ensure that we might be thinking it might be a day or two, but you never know. So just plan for the worst, hope for the best. So make sure you have your medical information with you, know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. So these are, map it out, get it coordinated, and then know the route or the roads you plan to take. So that's all important. If you have a pet, this is really, really important to make sure you have plans to be able to accommodate an evacuation for your pet. I don't know what that looks like for you all, but medicine for the pet, pet carrier, food, there's a pet going along with you, where you end up going, are you going to be able to house the pet there? Do you need accommodations at a kennel or something like that? So just make sure you're thinking about your pet. Secure your private and personal information. So received a recommendation from a member here that I thought was just a really great idea. So we all have computers, we all have personal information, maybe a lot of information in hard copies of information as well. But if you have a computer, you might want to download all that information on a thumb drive. So then all that information is packed in your suitcase when you go. And then if you need to access that at a hotel or something, you can always access that information. So sometimes that gets lost, but probably some of the most critical information we have could be on your computer. Bank account information, passport information, medical information, contacts, communication, basic communication. So definitely would encourage that, private personal information, secure that, and then also have a plan B. So plan A's, I don't have a percentage, but generally they're gonna work most of the time, right? But so say you plan to go to your daughter's, and then all of a sudden somebody gets sick in the household, or somebody has an emergent situation, and you don't have the support there that you thought you were going to have, or that home is impacted as well. So then really, if you only have a plan A and that is your plan, you're not going to be able to, then you're sort of stuck. So always have a plan B, think through that. Potential other scenarios. So what about evacuating with Tide Point? A lot of similar information, but did want to share this. Certainly continue to have your medical information. Once again, secure your private and personal information. Suggest a thumb drive. If you have a big computer, some folks might have a laptop that's on the laptop, but if you have a big computer, definitely a thumb drive. So once we get to, if we do have to evacuate and you're coming with Tide Point, we get to the hotel, there could be possible shared accommodations based on availability. So even though we have these agreements with hotels, if they have an event that's already planned, and it's a 200-room hotel, they already got 75 rooms booked, and you got 125 rooms left, and we have 150 people, there might be some shared accommodations. So just not ideal, but emergency situation that could happen. So if you go with us, you are going to have housing, we are going to provide transportation, but once you get to the hotel, depending on what area that we're in, the hotel, meals are going to be on your own. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner can be at the hotel restaurant, it could be at local restaurants in the area, but meals are going to be on your own. In the past, I believe, might have been the Ramada again, I think we might have been able to take over the kitchen, which was probably nice at the time, but it's nowadays, there's not many hotels that will do that. There's a lot of risk involved with that for a hotel. A lot of concerns from a hotel ownership standpoint. I mean, that's ideal if we can do that, but if they have other events taking place in the hotel, it's gonna be hard to take over the kitchen. So we you would need to plan for meals on your own in that immediate vicinity. We would obviously have some transportation to help shuttle people back and forth to different dining venues. Okay, so this is just some other thoughts about general member responsibilities. Once again, plan ahead, plan A, plan B. If you haven't turned in your evacuation plan, just really encourage you to do that as soon as possible so that we can get them all in order ahead of the hurricane season. We talked about medical records and medical information. Don't forget about your prescriptions. Ensure that when you bring them, they're in the original prescription bottle. So I'll give you an example just about medicine. So Hurricane Harvey in Texas, hurricane hit the coast, went back out, came back in, and just sort of sat over Houston, and we got about 5 foot of rain. It was less of a wind event when it came back in, although we did have initially some tornadoes come through the area. But when you have 5 foot of rain, after about a foot, it's hard to get out anywhere. It's really hard to get to the pharmacy, much less 5 foot of rain. So what we identified as an after action plan for that hurricane was some of our residents at the time only had 2 weeks of medicine, or our care center might have only had 3 weeks of medicine. So then about a week into it, we were asking, what kind of workarounds can we get out of the community to get into the city to be able to get either deliveries come to us, or us to be able to get to pharmacies to get medicine. So I would encourage you, just if there is a hurricane coming up, get at least a 30-day supply of medicine. If you're running short, you only have 7 days left of the medicine you need, I would encourage you to get those filled so you have 30 days with you, just in case. Once again, Naples was evacuated for 120 days. Not that you can't get it filled elsewhere, but we never know what the situation is going to be like. I think it's better safe than sorry. You definitely don't want to be running out of some key medication early into the trip. Once again, plan for your pets. If you do have a pet, we would require a pet carrier. I would just say just about medicine, and I don't, there's other considerations that you might have from a medical standpoint. I know, once again, use Hurricane Harvey, we had some folks that were on dialysis. So you have to really just plan ahead if you're on dialysis, where is that going to take place? That was a big one, not only for our community, but the city of Houston. A lot of the dialysis operations were shut down, and that was a big concern. So we mentioned the hurricane evacuation forms and handouts. They went out into your box earlier this month. If you haven't turned in those forms, just another reminder to turn them in. If you have any questions as you're navigating through that form, Carrie is available for questions. I'm certainly available as well. We can answer any of those questions. So what happens if you have any expenses along the way? So we would encourage you, definitely for lodging and housing, save your receipts, because if it's generally an insurance claim, and we'll be able to get you reimbursed for that eventually. If you're driving your own car, track the mileage. That's a reimbursable expense. Any food is reimbursable as well. So keep all your receipts. Get an envelope, keep them all in there. I know it could end up being a lot, maybe it's a little, but we want to make sure that you get reimbursed for that. Communication is probably one of the biggest pieces of an evacuation. How do we communicate to you? How do we stay in touch? How do we get you information? How does your family get information about what's going on in the community or where you're staying? So there's a few ways that we do that. One is through the community app, the Tie Point community app. We'll have information there. We have, if it really truly is an emergency situation, on the beliving.com, you will see an emergency banner there that will be able to provide information to family members. So we'll be able to update status of the community, what's going on. There'll be pretty brief updates, but it'll be enough for family members to get an idea of what's happening. And then, as you're all well aware, we also use the Alert Media messaging system. And quick note about that Alert Media that comes out. When you receive that on your phone, it comes from this number. So you might want to put it into your phone. And if we need to communicate that on a broader basis, we certainly can. It comes from that number, but you cannot call that number. That's not like a live number that you can call back. So we deliver the message through that number, but that is not a phone line that we answer. So just good to know. And I would definitely also, we do Alert Medias, not all the time here, but pretty regularly. If you get a new phone or a new phone number, just please ensure that we have that information that's updated, just to make sure you continue to get them. We might even, prior to a hurricane, do a test. Just prior to an event that might be coming up, just so do a test, and then maybe a notice behind that, so the event we didn't get it, we would be able to work through that. Last thing we would want is, messages go out and you don't get it. Now, when I was talking to Tom about the presentation, and saw some of the prior presentations, he had a lot of pictures of hurricanes. I don't know if you remember that. A lot of hurricane damage, the way they're tracking, a lot of information there. I opted to pull that information out because I thought we might have questions, give us enough time for questions and answers. But it was pretty detailed in terms of what he was sharing in terms of some of the former storms and the way they were tracking and the impact that we had. When I was looking at, once again, the after-action report for Matthew, I believe winds were less than 100 miles an hour. It was category 2. I'm sorry?
88.
88. But the amount of damage that 88 mile an hour winds did here at the community and on the island was just extensive. So we don't want to get lulled into a false sense of security. Oh, it's only 80 mile an hour winds. It takes down big trees here. So, Carrie, did you have anything you want to add before we go to questions? Yeah, okay. So let's open it up for questions about hurricanes before we move into some other parts.
Yes, me, Niner, and I, and my wife and I were there in 2016, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there. We were there 9 days. So it's very difficult to plan. But you got to take what you're going to need, but you don't know what you're going to need. That's one of those cases. Lee, do you have any comments on that?
I thought it was an excellent evacuation. I thought Tide Point really took care of us. We lucked out having that whole hotel. We were able to bring our cook staff up, and most importantly, our social staff, and provided bus trips for us every day. In fact, we went to Target because several people forgot to pack their underwear.
Was that the Ramada?
Yes. It's a classic 1970s hotel.
That's what I heard.
Trust me.
I heard it was raining pretty heavy and the windows were leaking.
That was the second hurricane. Literally coming in from the ceiling.
Wow, yeah.
Question is, if we evacuate in our own car, but to the place that the group wants to go, who picks up the hotel bill when it is ready to check out? Do we do that? Do we do that? Is that a reimbursable expense? Or is that something that Tide Point does when it makes a reservation?
Did you select Plan B?
I don't know what plan B is.
There's two options on the red form. You have the options to go independently, or you have the option to go with the group.
Now, if we drive our car,
That's one of the selections. You can either
is
choose
that
to be on.
independently or is that with the group?
So under with the group, there's two selections. You can either choose to ride the bus or to drive your own
We're
car.
gonna drive our own car.
Yes, then we would make that reservation at the hotel for you and we pick up that tab.
Okay, thank you.
She's gonna bring the mic for you, microphone.
I want you to remember that these hotels do not necessarily have grab bars. You need them in the bed or shackle.
So she was sharing that some of the hotels might not have grab bars in the showers.
There are only a certain number of rooms within hotels that are required to be handicap accessible as well. And most of those rooms are gonna go to our residents at the care center who are having a higher need. So do be prepared for that as well. This is an emergency evacuation, so we do the best we can.
We can't hear back here.
Any other questions?
I'm wondering what happens when we evacuate to our cars. So what is the elevation and what is the elevation for the garages? Do they get flooded or how does that work?
Historically speaking, our garages have not flooded. If anything, the water damage we did experience was from water intrusion from wind and damage from trees and things of that sort. That's not to say that that's not a possibility.
So for your automobile, if there is damage, it may fall initially under your car insurance, but I'm not 100% sure.
We were here in Matson and we evacuated a little bit early, so we didn't get caught and called in traffic. Is that a possibility?
We leave when the governor mandates. That, we hope it's early, it might not be.
Like we leave early and still join up with the group and wherever we evacuate to. In other words, if we're a day ahead or so, does that take us out of the plan or is it okay? What's the answer?
Oh, you can evacuate early. If you're gonna be driving yourself but joining us at the hotel, you can, you just need to let me know so I can let the hotel know. Otherwise, you might have to cover the first night or two of your expenses at the hotel and then just be reimbursed on the back end.
Yeah, I think that just sort of goes back to, it's really important on the information we get if you're gonna be with us, because then Carrie notifies the hotel in terms of how many rooms we need to reserve.
I understand Ramada Inn is one of the possibilities. And would you inquire if they replaced or repaired or overhauled the elevators? Last 2 times, we had trouble with all the elevators to get down.
I heard about the elevator, we got a question over here with Mr. Nine, and we get done here. I've heard about the elevator concern at Ramada, and I don't believe we're looking at the Ramada, are we, Carrie?
I don't even think it's open.
We have many hotels that we consider.
Okay. So we can ask the Ramada.
But we don't go there.
I think that's not our first choice. Unless y'all want to.
I just wanted to address a comment made about leaving early. The last 3 hurricanes that we evacuated with, the governor puts the notice out. Generally speaking, it was 24 hours ahead before the general public got word. So we were able to leave. Furthermore, if you're really smart, it was mentioned earlier by Michael, you can leave 2 days early and get to that hotel. Because when you get stuck in the traffic, there's only one way off this island. It's horrible.
I will mention as well, though, that there have been a couple of occasions where we ended up sheltering in place. The governor didn't call the evacuation, and we did have individuals who drove themselves and left early. They had to pay for their mileage, their gas, their food, as well as their stay in the hotel, and they were not reimbursed. So just know that that's a possibility if you decide to do that.
If we go to multiple facilities, will there be a fee staff member at each of the facilities to assist in any emergencies?
So if there are facilities that we have rooms booked, then I would imagine yes.
Yes.
If there are a facility that you choose and no other, it's not one of the ones that we have, then no.
Is Tide Point on the day early notification from the governor?
So the question,
The answer is yes.
so,
It's hospitals until you recover.
Yeah. okay. The 24-hour advance notice, 24 hours in advance of the general public notification, we receive an evacuation.
Ms. Nina asked a really good question. Actually, I might ask you to ask it again, because I don't think I could repeat it.
Well, I was wondering what happens if you want to come back earlier than the bus group, like you want to drive yourself and maybe drive earlier and likewise come back earlier. Can you get back into Tide Point?
Can't get on the line.
Correct. For most individuals, they're not able to get on the island. We will come back at the earliest possible time that we can. There's a combination of things between getting onto the island, making sure that the bridges are safe, but as well, even if the island's open, that doesn't necessarily mean that our property is. Coming back to Tide Point might not be safe yet, so we will notify you at the earliest possibility for when we can return. Any other
Got a
questions?
question over here?
I'm interested in the preparation for the house itself. What you should make sure you do before you leave.
Many of the items our housekeeping team and our maintenance team are going to be able to do themselves, but if you want to assist, by all means, please do. That's going to be including getting any items that are outside or on balconies or porches that could essentially be picked up by the wind and thrown, pulling those items inside. So that means plants, it could be furniture, or if maybe if you live in a home and you're on the second story, putting those items underneath your home. But maintenance and housekeeping, they do go around and do all of those items as well.
I would recommend that you fill your cars up, because I lived through Hurricane Andrew, which is a Category 5 in Miami, and it was very difficult getting gas because people had generators and they needed, the gas. So I would recommend, because there could be a shortage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
There is only one gas station in Beaufort County that has generators that run the pumps. One. Take that into consideration.
Right. Which one is that? Probably on the far end, right on the border.
And that's all of Beaufort County.
Yeah, when I was in Texas, we're close to the Gulf, so we get more warnings. We haven't really had in Houston anyway, a big hurricane with a big wind event in the wild. But even 3 days before an event, the gas stations are lined up. Yeah, even 3 days.
Part of the orientation when I became a faculty member at UNC was a hurricane prep like this. And the things they said were fill your car with gas and have cash with you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just rely on credit cards. So, because you may run into a lot of situations where your credit card doesn't work.
Yeah, that's another good point.
You will know in advance, I should say. We've always kind of said hurricanes are like being stalked by a turtle. It doesn't come up all of a sudden within 24 hours. Most of the time, 2 weeks out, there's this storm brewing, 10 days out. it looks like we might get hit 5 days out, okay, we're definitely in the cone. So you're aware that those things are going on, so you can make sure to get gas early, to make sure you have supplies early. It's not so much like a tornado where you get 30 seconds notice if you're lucky and you have to find shelter. So just keep that in mind as well.
Carrie, that's a good point. Sheltering in place. Is there any recommendations that you would want to share with them about, is there a list that we could get out to folks about supplies they might want to have on hand?
There is a list, and many of you who have been through the hurricane seasons with us before have seen those lists. We're going to be putting them in your mailbox along with all of the emergency contact information. So those will be going into your mailbox. But it's pretty simple items. It's things like you want to make sure that you have canned food and water, flashlights and basic medical supplies, especially because in the independent living side here, if we were to lose power, you lose power as well. So anyone who has a CPAP, that's something to consider. Anyone who's on oxygen, making sure that you have enough oxygen, that's another item to consider as well.
On this past Sunday and on other occasions, our sunroom has been, when it's rained, has gotten a lot of rain in, and we're supposed to get a new window, but if there's a hurricane, I think we could get an awful lot of damage with our furniture. I think we'll put our furniture farther in the house.
I'm sure you put a work order in for maintenance, so we'll look at that as well. All right, I will tell you that even if your windows aren't leaking during a regular storm, a hurricane is not a regular storm. And you're looking at the wind damage that's going to be affecting that, and a lot of that is what causes the water intrusion.
So I've heard a lot about the cone, being in the cone. So what is the relationship between Hilton Head being in the cone and how it affects our planning or whatever we do?
The cone is the margin for error based on the last 10 years of data. So that is the possibility that the eye of the storm could be anywhere within that cone. That means that that's the margin of error that they've had predicting over the last 10 years. So it's gotten better. They're actually going to come out with a new type of model this year. Most people don't know that, but they're going to be coming out with a new model this year. So those are the models we're going to be working off of.
For those of us who live in verandas or cottages, how do we get picked up? Is there a schedule put out ahead of time?
In the past, yes, we provided bus transportation up to the clubhouse so that you can get on the proper bus if that's what you've selected. And that information is going to be communicated regularly if we're actually in an active evacuation situation.
Sometimes things don't work out, okay? The governor said, okay, we're gonna evacuate at noontime. So I said to my wife, why would we sit around here and wait till noontime? So we evacuated, and we went up to Augusta, and we went over to a hotel to have a lunch. And they said, oh, didn't you hear? The warning was called off. So we drove up there and had lunch.
That's called making lemonade out of lemons. We like that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that additional context. I would suggest maybe next time taking your clubs. Just in case. But that is such a good point because you just don't know, right? So you're proactively thinking about it. I think Carrie was sharing and some others is like, you know, some folks left early, proactive. I mean, that's probably what I would do. I'm getting out. I'm not going to sit in the long lines getting off the island, but you never know. Yeah. If you're ever up that way and you happen to be around the Augusta golf course, let me know. I want to get a hat. I don't think I'll ever be able to get into the national, you know, it's pretty hard to get in, but. All right, good questions, all good questions. So, thank you, Kerry. Okay, one more.
Not so much a question as a fact. Many years ago, we had a hurricane that went ashore in Savannah, and over 100 deaths occurred in the areas north of us. So the surge is an incredibly devastating problem.
That's the storm surge, just referencing, we just need to be mindful that we could have something that hits south of us, but the storm surge will just come right into, you know, through the marshes and be pretty impactful. Okay, I'm gonna shift gears if that's okay, and we'll move in to some dining updates. There it is. Some of you thought you may never see that. So we are bringing some buffets back. The first one's going to be Memorial Day. You might have seen if you walk by the club room that we got some chafing dishes out. Claude is super excited to be, you know, getting back into that mode. So that's going to be on Monday the 27th. I believe we have the menu. If it's not posted,
it's on the app.
It's on the app. So really excited about that. And then soon after, we're going to have our first Sunday brunch, which is going to be on Sunday, June 9th. So we're excited about that as well. Chef wanted to share that we're going to continue with our dinner dessert special themes that he's been doing. So a lot of positive reviews about that. I don't know the exact day that the next one's coming, but I know he's got a great menu. He's got a great thought around that. And just a reminder that these are only available in the dining rooms. That we're not doing the desserts, the dinner or dessert special through to-go orders or deliveries, just in the dining rooms only. So any other thoughts on dining before I move on? I just want to have something I don't have on the agenda. I know there's been a lot of buzz around tablecloths. Is that an understatement? Is that an understatement? Yes. Okay. So I think on multiple occasions I've shared my view as an executive director about our dining program and specifically the casual dining room. When we're going through the refurb process, you know, and you know, they were working through how they're going to decorate the dining rooms, how they're going to outfit them. The vision for the casual was a nicer tabletop, which we all spent money on, you know, to get the nicer tabletops, but not have table linens on the tabletops. And so that was the thought process around that. They're still nicely appointed, nicely decorated, but the thought process around that too was to be able to create some variety for the members. Formal with the tablecloth, casual as you see it there. And there's two other venues that we haven't even rolled out that I'm going to be talking about in future town halls about the vision for dining overall. So maybe last year when Kevin was here and he came back from one of the corporate meetings, he might have shared high level about what that vision was going to be. But I'm going to really detail it out for you all in one of the upcoming town halls in terms of what that vision looks like for our dining operation. But just really high level, we have a really nice formal dining room with tablecloths. You see the casual, which is, you know, in my opinion, it just feels, for me, it feels good. I mean, when you go out to a lot of restaurants now, that's what you see. It's an upscale casual, nicely appointed tabletops. I know there's concerns. I could probably go around the room and you know, I'm going to get a different suggestion from everybody in here about the tabletops. And probably one of the bigger concerns is the water glasses on the tables, right? So And the coasters, right? So, and we're navigating through that. I think we've sort of been back and forth about what's working, what's not. We got some other samples coming in for posters, which I think you'll like. But from my standpoint as an executive director, we spent a lot of money on this vision. The community spent a lot of money on that vision. We have banquets in there, the tabletops, and just the whole feel of that dining room. So I'm not veering away from that vision at this point. So I just wanted to share that from my perspective. But also as we move forward, I want to be able to share it at a future town hall. What is the club room? What is the vision for the club room? What is the vision for the Sunset Lounge? Not only from like a meeting space or possibly a private dining venue, but also from the dining standpoint. What type of food are we going to serve in there? How is the kitchen going to get it out of the kitchen? Because we don't have a really big kitchen. There's only so many resources. So what that food operation might look like in the club room, but then also in the Sunset Lounge. So if you come into the Sunset Lounge, high level right now, we're just thinking if you want to come in for a drink and you want to come in for a quick bite, you're going to be able to do that off a limited menu. And we're going to be able to deliver that to you. But there's a lot of moving parts with our dining team right now in terms of the, not casting the vision, but carrying out the vision. But also we got leadership turnover in there. So one of the key positions in this community is the director of dining. So I've had over 40 applicants for that position. I've had one interview so far, I got another one tomorrow, and we'll continue to move forward until we feel that we got the right candidate or right core of candidates, and then we'll move them through the interview process. That'll include other leaders in this community, and then some of our dining supervisors, and then some folks from our corporate team. So that leader, he or she, is going to be part of that vision and help us to execute that. But this is a really big deliverable for us. So last year, when I got here, we were just getting the resident satisfaction survey, and although there was positive movement in the resident satisfaction survey, as a result, mainly, I think, of Chef Brian, who had only been here 3 months, being able to move the needle in a positive direction. But many of you have seen what Chef Brian is capable of, far beyond what he was able to show before that survey, and I continue to get rave reviews. Matter of fact, we had the to-go meal last Friday because we had to shut down the kitchen to get new equipment. And I heard from a couple folks that by far it was one of the best Italian nights they ever had. Which I can attest to because I went in there and as Brian was sort of working through and navigating getting that equipment in with the contracting company, and I actually had some of that sauce that had the eggplant in it. And that was fantastic. I'm like, this is some of the best sauce I've ever had. So anyway, we got a great chef. And Brian wants to be able to continue to be able to raise the game here from a culinary standpoint. And part of that, raising the game, is opening up the different menus. So I'm excited about that. But as soon as I know more about the director of dining, certainly I'll share that with the dining committee, definitely share it with the board. And maybe even in communications to you all, how that's progressing. I know that's a key position. So in the meantime, we got 3 great supervisors in there, Charmaine, Loretta, and Sandra. So 3 great supervisors that are holding down the fort. I'm amazed at what they are able to do, to be able to keep this operation headed in the right direction. I got some feedback from this morning from a private dining event that took place last night that was just, off the top, so to speak. It was just that good. And so we continue to, and that's not only the kitchen, that's also the service staff. So got a lot of positive comments about the club room, the way it looks, the way it feels. We had an event in there for the Junior League yesterday afternoon. Just sort of feels good in there. Looking to activate that bar soon. We're waiting to get some locks on the cabinets. But once we can get that in place and I can get the team lined up to get it stocked, we're gonna move the temporary bar into the Sunset Lounge. Into the club room until we get the Sunset Lounge open. Now, many of you might be thinking, is there a date on that? Many of you might be thinking that. There probably is, I just don't have it. So I was on a call yesterday and was able to get some updates yesterday. And I know nobody's looked in there. I know nobody's seen in there. I'm really hoping to get this tarp down tomorrow. Okay, I'm really hoping to get that tarp down tomorrow. So at least you'll be able to see what's going on. They still got work to do in there. They got some work to do around the footrest. They have some electrical work they're trying to finish up in there. We got to get the equipment fully set in there. There's just these little pieces that are nagging, not only in there, but also in the club room that are just really bothering me at this point. Because I just think that, why can't we just finish this? You're probably thinking the same. I was talking with a contractor yesterday, and we're going to do a walkthrough. I'm going to personally do a walkthrough with him next week, because I don't think I can do it tomorrow with him, but just so we can ensure that we're all on the same page, and I can get some communications out to you actually when we can get in there. So slowly but surely, but the club room's going to be next to the bar. We'll get rid of the temporary bar that we have, move it over to the club room, and then we'll eventually get the Sunset activated. The good news is, you will not go without a happy hour no matter what. You will not go without a happy hour. So I'm gonna shift gears unless there's any other thoughts on dining.
There's a question.
Gary, can you help us?
I have a question. I looked ahead on the app, and I do not see any wind downs on the activities. I can understand.
So we're gonna have a wind down in June. We just haven't got it fully communicated. But in talking with the supervisors, talking with Kevin, talking to our wine vendor, we just need to work through and navigate through some things to get the wines lined up. But we're gonna have one in June. So we'll get some communications out around that.
Here.
So in the brief time that I lived here, which is a little over a year, my wife and I had a good experience with Kevin. He was personal with us, and he was just nice to talk to, and he did things for us. And so I just wanted to mention that. For Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
Table topics. But I just want to build on what the gentleman said. It was a very nice write-up that you had for Kevin in 24 years. So many memories have been created with him. I was wondering if possibly instead of putting it in a document, I don't know if he even saw it, maybe we could have him for the final wind down and thank him for his years of service.
So I can probably say that honestly, Kevin's not going to be back. He's fully retired, so I don't know if he's going to be back. I don't think he's going to be back for the one go. Okay, so let me move on because there's one little piece I wanted to share with you. So you may remember a couple town halls ago that I shared, and Quentin was in here with me about this. When you put in a work order, a way that if we had your email address, you put in the work order, you were then going to get an acknowledgement for the work order, and then as that process continued through, the work order continued through the process, you're going to get feedback on that. So Quentin and his team did such a good job of that they were selected to be able to move on to the next step and be a pilot community for the next step of the process, which is actually putting those requests officially on the app, and you're now going to be able to go into the application, TiPoint app, put in the work order yourself right there directly, and then you will continue to get the same cadence of communications that you received in the past. So we are the first community that's going to be rolling that out. I think it's going to go probably pretty good because it's a pretty simple process. But that's going to start on June 5th. That you're going to be able to go online into the app and say you have something going on in the house that you wanted to share with the maintenance team that you need fixed. You'll be able to go into the app. There's not a separate login required. You'll then be able to go into that specific icon, and we'll have that detailed out for you, and then put in a work order. Put in the work order, and then you're going to get bounced back that the work order was submitted, and then you'll get updates through the process. So Quentin and his team are pretty excited about it. I'm pretty excited about it as well, for a couple reasons. One, that Quentin really saw the need for that here, to be able to get that application out in front of people, get the email addresses, get that cleaned up so we had everybody's information. There was a few hiccups, initially, but then got it up and running, so then you were able to get live updates as that was moving through the process. But then we're even taking it one step further that you can do that yourself. So when I say that is, before you would put that in, and it wasn't fully seamless. We still had to go into the system and put that into the system for it to carry forward. So you would email it in, acknowledgement that it went in, and then we had to do something on the back end to make it flow into what we call TMA, which is our maintenance system. So now it's going to flow seamlessly through the system and sort of save some of our team some time
At
the concierge desk, who've been helping to support that, and eventually get quicker responses and quicker updates for y'all. So once this goes live, there'll be some additional details on the app and in the system that you'll be able to tie into. Just personally, I can share that when I was at my last community, that was probably one of the biggest things that I would hear from our members, in regards to maintenance issues. It's like I put it in, but it seems like it's just a hole. Where's it go after that? What happens? For you to be able to get an acknowledgement that it went in, and then acknowledgement that it was picked up by the maintenance tech, and that it's moving through the process is just amazing. So if you do have any feedback, you can share that. Joy, how would you like that information to get back to us?
Well, on the day that goes live, we're going to be having an appy hour at 4 o'clock, and I'm going to be showing you, if you come to that appy hour, we're going to open the bar, you can get a drink, but I'll be showing you how you can put those new work orders in, where to find it on your app. So we'll make it as easy as possible for you.
So get a drink, find out about the app.
They get another drink.
And get another drink. Okay. And just a reminder, Mingle with Mike is my next communication comes up on Thursday, June 13th. I hope to see you there. And with that, you all have a good day. Thank you very much.